Jamal Washington, a 17-year-old from suburban Atlanta, stood in front of the mirror in his room. His fingers delicately adjusted the knot of his tie. It wasn't the kind of day where you just throw on whatever and rush out the door. No, today was different. Today, Jamal had earned himself a spot at the prestigious National Youth Science Competition in Boston. It had been his dream ever since he first started working on his aerodynamics project. Months of research, hours of sleepless nights spent perfecting a model that was going to change the way we think about aircraft wing efficiency. And that was just the beginning. The competition wasn't the only big thing happening today. It was also Jamal's first time flying alone. A moment of independence, and one that, if everything went according to plan, would launch his future. He could already picture himself at MIT, one step closer to his dream scholarship. "Got your boarding pass?" his mom, VYN, asked from the doorway, snapping him out of his thoughts. VYN was always busy, a powerhouse in her own right. She had recently been appointed the deputy director of the FBI CIVYL Rights DVY Shaun. But today, just like every other day, she was a mom first. "Yes, Mom," Jamal said, grinning. "And I backed up all my files. It's all set." VYN smiled, but her eyes were full of that quiet pride she had for her son. "Remember what we talked about," she said, stepping forward to straighten his tie, her fingers brushing against the fabric. "No matter what happens, keep your cool. Document everything, and always know your rights. Stay calm, be respectful, but stand firm." Jamal finished, smiling. They'd said this to each other 100 times. It wasn't just "ad VY seat" with Sir VY Val. A mantra for a young black man in America. A mantra that, today, would serve him in ways he couldn't imagine. The drive to Atlanta International Airport was filled with last-minute reminders. VYN had her meetings, and Jamal had his flight. A simple goodbye at the airport. Or at least, that's how it was supposed to go. But things quickly took a turn the moment Jamal reached the security line. He did everything right, kept his head down, moved slowly, and kept his eyes straight ahead. Despite following every unwritten rule, Jamal was pulled aside for extra screening. He watched as several white passengers moved through the line without issue. He didn't say anything, just kept his face neutral, his body tense. He'd been here before. The feeling the unfairness was something he knew all too well. He boarded the plane, sitting in seat 3A, first class. It wasn't just about luxury, it was a gift from his mom. She'd splurged on this ticket to make his first solo flight special. But when he showed his boarding pass to the gate agent, the woman barely looked at him before curtly saying, "This line is for first-class passengers only." Jamal bit his lip, sliding the boarding pass across the counter. "I'm in seat 3A. The agent glanced up, her tone immediately cold. "Oh, very well then," she said, scanning his ticket. He kept his head down, but the words his mother had drilled into him echoed in his head. "Saw document, everything saw. Even when it felt like the world was against you, you kept your dignity intact." Once on board, the flight attendant, Meredith Holloway, greeted passengers with that practiced smile. When she saw Jamal, her smile didn't just tighten, it froze. "First time flying?" she asked, her voice almost patronizing. "Yes, ma'am," Jamal replied, forcing a smile. "Well, first class is to your right," she said, her tone flat and dismissive. Seat numbers are clearly marked. As Jamal walked to his seat, he noticed how she treated the other white passengers with a kindness he didn't get. She offered to help them with their bags, exchanged pleasantries, and smiled like it was her job to make their day easier. But when she passed Jamal, her gaze was icy. She didn't offer to help him with his bag. She didn't offer anything. Jamal sat down in his seat, trying to shake it off. He had to focus. But then, something unexpected happened. An elderly white gentleman, Dr. Walter Bennett, sat down beside him in seat 3B. He extended his hand, introducing himself with a smile. "Looks like we're neighbors for the next few hours," Dr. Bennett said cheerfully. "I'm Jamal Washington. It's nice to meet you, Dr. Bennett. I've read your papers on fluid dynamics. They were hugely influential for my project," Jamal replied, his nerves forgotten as he enthusiastically spoke about his work. Dr. Bennett raised an eyebrow. "Well, what a coincidence. I'm one of the judges this year," Dr. Bennett said, a chuckle in his voice. "Don't worry. I won't ask for any pre-VYU. That wouldn't be fair to the other contestants." They continued their conversation, talking about the competition and the future of aviation. Dr. Bennett treated Jamal like an equal. It was refreshing, and Jamal felt a surge of hope. Maybe the world wasn't as bad as it seemed. But Meredith was still watching. As she passed by, she served Dr. Bennett first, laying out his breakfast with care and asking if everything was to his satisfaction. Then, she turned to Jamal. Her hands barely touched the tray as she dropped it in front of him, causing his orange juice to spill over the rim and onto his shirt. She barely apologized. "Oh, I'm sorry," she muttered, handing him a napkin. "Be more careful." Jamal paused. He knew this wasn't the hill to die on, not yet. He took the napkin, wiped up the mess, and tried to hold his anger in check. Dr. Bennett, ever the gentleman, frowned. "I believe another napkin might be in order," he said calmly. But Meredith just tossed a couple more napkins at him before moving on. The moment wasn't lost on Dr. Bennett. "You handled that well," he said quietly. Jamal just shrugged. "I've had plenty of practice." The rest of the flight went on, but it didn't feel normal. Meredith's behavior towards him only worsened. Jamal tried to focus on his project after all. This was the moment he'd been working for, but the tension in the air was palpable. He noticed how she treated the white passengers with warmth, but when it came to him, her gaze was cold. Her demeanor was harsh. Then, about an hour into the flight, Meredith's suspicion took a dangerous turn. She started watching Jamal more closely. He had his project materials open, reviewing his diagrams and calculations, but to her, they looked suspicious. Jamal had no idea that she would go this far, but suddenly, it became clear Meredith had decided he was a threat. Meredith whispered something to another flight attendant, and within minutes, an air marshal was approaching. "Excuse me, sir. We need you to come with us," the air marshal, a man named Jackson Boyd, said. Jamal was stunned. "What's going on?" he asked. "We've received reports of suspicious behavior, Boyd said, his voice curt. "We need to investigate." Jamal's heart raced, but he remained calm. He asked to speak to his mother, but Boyd refused. The other passengers were beginning to take notice now. Some had started recording the interaction on their phones, while others just watched, uncertain about what was happening. Jamal gathered his things and followed the air marshal, trying to make sense of what was happening. He had done nothing wrong. Nothing at all. When they reached the back of the plane, Boyd started to question him. Jamal remained calm, asking for clarification about what he was being accused of. But before he could get an answer, Meredith stepped forward. "He's been acting suspicious the entire flight," she said loudly, her voice dripping with false authority. "He's been looking at diagrams of aircraft vulnerabilities. And he's got a locked case with him." Jamal stood firm. "Those are just my project materials. I'm a finalist for a national science competition," he explained. But Meredith's words held weight. Her accusation was all it took. The flight was diverted to Philadelphia, and Jamal was escorted off the plane. The humiliation was overwhelming. The passengers, some supportive, others silent, watched as he walked past them, his head held high despite the injustice. And received an alert on her phone about the diversion. She knew immediately something was wrong. She excused herself from her meeting and rushed into action. By the time she arrived in Philadelphia, Jamal had been detained for hours. And as she walked into that room, her demeanor shifted from concerned mother to FBI deputy director. She wasn't just there to get her son. She was there to make a stand for justice. And demanded answers. She turned the tables on Transcontinental Airlines and made it clear that her son wasn't just a teenager who'd been wrongly accused, he was the symbol of everything that was wrong with the system. She demanded transparency. She demanded accountability. And she wasn't leaving until she got it. Back in Philadelphia, the pressure mounted. The story had gone viral. Meredith's lies had been exposed. Jamal's bravery had sparked a nationwide conversation about racial profiling, and the airline was forced to confront its own failures. With the full force of the FBI behind her, negotiated a settlement that would change the airline forever. It wasn't just about her son anymore. It was about making sure this never happened to anyone else. And in the end, Jamal's victory wasn't just about winning the competition, it was about winning for everyone who had ever been judged by the color of their skin. What would you do if you were in Jamal's shoes? How do you think this story should end? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more real stories about justice.